Good evening, everyone. My name is Jose Buesa with Dynamic Automotive, and tonight I'm afraid Dave Serio has some technical difficulties going on. So he's going to observe us and hope we do well tonight. We have Dave Winward with us, and we have Mr. Mike Lambert. And as usual, I believe it was Mike that was here first, so we're going to start with you, Mike.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
This is really kind of odd filling in today.
Yes, it is. While I'm watching him down there, he's going to make funny faces at us and point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I am staying very busy over here. Of course, winter is just around the corner, and our shop is now swamped with work, which I am happy to report because September and October were a little light for us. How are you doing?
We're doing good. We're very busy. We've gotten a lot of new customers in here. I have two gentlemen that haven't even taken delivery of their cars that have made appointments, so that's really good. A new Shelby GT350 and a new Porsche 911 that are due in shortly, so that they've made appointments. And we've been doing a lot of newer cars that have been loved by the dealerships, so it's always a good thing.
Oh, that's great. Yes.
Yeah.
So they're bringing their vehicles over to you directly from the dealerships, or do the dealerships actually try and detail them first?
Yeah, pretty much that's the way it works. They try it first, and then they send it to me to fix it. So it's worked out real well.
Good for business.
Yes, yes it is. Yes it is. But a lot of nice people, and a lot of them are Dave's listeners. So that's it's worked out really well for us.
Why don't you tell us about the product that you put on most of your vehicles, the most popular product that you really like?
Well, our coatings are really popular. It's probably 95% of our business, the ceramic coatings we do. And we use two brands. One is Geon, and the other is Kamikaze. And the Kamikaze is our top-of-the-line coating that give you at least 3 years of durability. So that's been catching on more and more since we started offering it. But most of the people are doing the Geon, and that'll give you probably up to 2 years. And people seem to like that. It just makes it so much easier to maintain.
So the Geon will last longer in the long run?
Yeah, the Geon, we have two versions of that. One will give you about 18 months, and then the other is more than 2 years. And then the Kamikaze is a two-layer system of two different products from their brand, and that gives you at least 3 years.
Wow.
So it's been working out really well for us.
That's impressive. Now, of course, this stuff is a lot harder and more durable than wax. What is it exactly, though?
It's a ceramic quartz combination that is basically the same material that the glass on your car is made out of. So it's hard. It's just as hard as the glass. So that's what makes it so much more durable than waxes. And it actually will chemically bond to the paint versus just sitting on top of paint. So it's a real involved process to put it on. The Lexus, I have a 2015 Lexus behind me that has partaken of the free car washes at the dealership, and we have I'm going to say about 9 hours of polishing and coating in it. So
Wow.
it takes a lot of time.
Now, you're a one-man show when it comes to applying this product on vehicles, or do you sometimes have help?
No, I do it all myself. My wife runs the business part of it and does a fine job. And I tell everybody I just wax the cars. So
You're the help.
yeah, I haven't had an occasion to really need any help because people they know when it's just me working on their car. I think it makes them feel a little better. I worked in a shop before this where we had some teenagers in there, and they were just interested in being around the cool cars. So I always had to go back and redo their work. So I'm happier by myself. It's easier for me.
Yeah, understood there. It's very difficult to find good quality help, somebody that's really got their heart in it, and everyone knows after they deal with you that you truly do have your heart in your work. That's why you've got the reputation you do have.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I still enjoy it. When it gets to be a job, I'll stop.
Uh-huh. Well, hang in there with us,
Just
Mike. I'm going to come right back to you. I'm going to move over to Mr. Lambert. I mean, Mr. Winward. David, what do you have for us tonight?
Well, Jose, thanks for having me this evening.
Oh, my pleasure.
And yeah, I wanted to talk about differentials. We're getting into the winter season and people engaging their four-wheel drives. And I wanted to talk about a specific subject as far as differential straightness. And what a lot of people don't realize when their differential goes bad because of a bearing, and say the technician says, well, your axle bearing went bad. So they put a new axle bearing in it, and then that one goes bad a couple months later. Sometimes it's because the actual housing of the differential is bent. And what we're finding is a lot of these newer differentials are made so much smaller and lighter that simply running over a pothole too fast, or if you have a van or a truck that has a little bit too much weight in the back and you hit a pothole, you can bend it, not a lot, but even if it was a 16th of an inch or a 32nd of an inch, that can put some load on a bearing that can cause bearing failure. So I had a video from our peppy guy, Jim Ball, about how we check the straightness of the axle.
Oh, that sounds great.
I can boot that up if you're ready.
Yeah, let's turn it on.
All right, let me give me 1 second here.
We're actually doing a couple of differentials at this shop this week.
Oh,
One on a
okay.
Ford and one on a GM Silverado.
Are they the fronts or the rears?
The rears. And
Okay.
as a matter of fact, we've seen the failure that you've described on an F-150 about a year ago. We saw the tube. It was visible to us. That
Okay.
it itself was sort of wide out bent. So
Okay.
we replaced the entire assembly at that point.
Absolutely. And I think the number that was given to me was 80% of the differentials we get back in need some kind of everyone hits a pothole, and it's one of those things you don't think about. You hit a pothole and you bend a tie rod. Well, you're usually running over the same pothole and back. And if it did
Right.
damage to the front, it could have done a little bit of damage in the back as well. So we have a really neat jig that we've developed on how to check for the straightness. So I'll pull up this video right now.
Let's talk semi-floating axle housing straightening on this Jasper Tech update. Every semi-floating axle that comes through the Jasper differential division goes through a straightening check. It's imperative to have a straight axle housing to eliminate the chance of liability, wheel bearing failure, or internal gear failure. Jasper slides a bar through the length of the semi-floating axle housing. There are two tapered cones that center themselves on the seal area. A centering gauge that slides along the bar should fit into the carrier capboard to ensure housing straightness. If the housing is bent, it's taken to a hydraulic press where it's laid on a set of V-blocks by the backing plate. Pressure is applied at various locations along the axle tubes. This process is repeated until the sliding gauge fits into the carrier capboard. In conclusion, we want to stress the importance of semi-floating axle housing straightness, and liability, and bearing longevity. It's just another way Jasper provides peace of mind for you and your customer.
I
Yeah.
love that guy.
Oh yeah, he's so full of energy.
He is really something.
I
Yes,
think he drank like 4 Red Bulls before he did that. At least.
he reminds me of
But
Count Duvall on Saturday night in the horror flicks.
yeah. But one thing I liked when they showed that puck, and that's the same size as the bearing in the carrier, you could see that gap was only maybe an eighth of an inch, if that. And usually a lot of these aren't visible even by looking at it. You could try to take a tape measure and measure them out, and you probably would never detect that little bit of a bend. But again, that little bit can preload that bearing just enough to where it might, if you replace the bearings, it might not happen today or tomorrow, but 6 months down the road, you might have a repeated bearing failure because of the bend in the actual housing.
Right. So you're really checking for the trueness there of the housing, and you're achieving it with that jig. And it's very interesting how they can bend that differential back in place with those presses. Do they ever weld those units together?
Well, the actual tubes are usually pressed into the, or as I would call it, which is usually a cast iron. And what I've been told, to actually take a tube out and replace it is more labor. They just find another core at that point.
Interesting. Is that somebody's phone or something going on there?
That's my wife's phone. I apologize.
Oh, okay. I was wondering.
But one of the things we also see are on the that was a semi-float axle. On the full floating differentials, they have the spindle end to where the wheel bearings are on the outside of the the, the housing, where they're the ones that, when you can unbolt the axle and just slide it out with the wheel still connected.
Full
And
floating, yeah.
yeah, and we find that a lot of times they're bent, and also a major failure is if the cover, the rear cover, is leaking and it leaks the fluid out. That the fluid level will dip to the point where it loses lubrication to those outside bearings, and then they'll actually lock up on that shaft. And in that case, we have to put the whole thing on a lathe. We can cut those ends off and re-weld another end. They slide another one inside and then re-weld it. But as far as replacing the whole tube, from what I've been told, that's very, very rare, unless it's an older differential from like a classic car that the cores aren't available or something to that effect.
Wow, that sounds really cool. You guys have got it down to a science when it comes to overhauling the housings and straightening things out.
Yeah, they've been doing it for a long, long time. Some of the welders we use are 40, 50 years old, still are as good as anything out on the market that's merged arc welders.
That's cool. Now, I understand that Jasper also supplies differentials to NASCAR, as well as transmissions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, NASCAR differentials are based on the 9-inch Ford, and we don't sell the complete housing. They actually have a removable carrier to where you can just pull the whole pumpkin out. Some people call it a pumpkin, which has the ring and pinion. And they're not a Jasper-specific unit. They're a 9-inch Ford, and they're heavily modified by the aftermarket. The actual the carrier itself, I think it's made by maybe Strange or one of the other performance companies. They have a little teeny pump, an oil pump inside that recirculates the oil to cool the gears down. Back even, I think, is maybe 15 years ago, they were using an external pump with a little belt. And what would happen if a rock or something got flung up on the track, it would break the belt, and then the rear would overheat. So someone developed a little teeny pump that's inside of there. And from what I understand, I don't know too much about it. We have some engineers that have developed a new style pump, which I believe we have a patent on. And that should be developed and probably released next year. But a lot of, towards the end of the NASCAR season, it was very exciting. A lot of the drivers switched to the Jasper transmission because they were having so many transmission problems. And we're definitely by far the most winning transmission in NASCAR, hands down. And I guess it was, what was it, Kyle Busch won the championship.
Yes.
And, he was running one of our transmissions, and we're hoping to continue that. And from another thing, I don't know too much about this, but we're supposed to have another one to be released that's even better. So I would assume the goal is to have everyone out there with a Jasper transmission, and that is our transmission. It's not a remanufactured transmission. It's totally developed by Jasper. We have the housings made for us. A lot of the work we're doing in-house. The gears are custom made for us, so that is an actual Jasper product. It's not a remanufactured product.
That's very cool stuff. When I visited Jasper in Indiana a few years back, I was able to see the ring and pinion gears from one of the racing differentials going through a bath of beads.
Yeah.
smoothing out all of the burrs from the gears, and I thought that was quite unique. And at that point, they also indicated they told us that the differentials all use oil coolers to keep them cool because they're running at such high speeds. Do you happen to know what type of ratios they're running on the track?
There's tons of different ratios, and in fact, the room that you were in was that really clean, temperature controlled room. You walk right outside across the hallway. There's shelves with just all the rears and boxes, and they're in sections. And I remember one of them would be like Hendrick Racing, one of them would be one of the other teams, and you could just see all of the different gear ratios.
Yeah.
So they changed the gear ratio in the rear, but they also changed the gear ratio in the transmission for whatever track that they're running. So it could be whatever. I've seen them 410, 455, 420. I've seen all across the board. And I think a lot of the different teams, depending on what power plant they're running, whether it's a Chevy, a Ford, the torque curves are going to be different. The engines are different, so they're going to gear them specifically for whatever power plant that they're using.
Yeah, I guess they would have to tailor everything to the track.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
the cars are all a little bit different. So, and I imagine even the same car, you could have two exact cars which you think are exact, but when you put them on the track, I've heard plenty of racers say, each car is still a little bit different, and they flex a little bit differently, and they might set them up a little bit differently to where they have to really adjust those gear ratios.
Yeah, very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. Thank you very much, Dave.
Oh, thank you.
We're going to go back to Mr. Lambert. Mr. Lambert, do you have a tip of the day for us?
I just some new stuff that came out from SEMA. We talked about on Dave's show Saturday. Meguiar's has a whole new line out now. It's called Mirror Bright, and that's from back in the days when Frank Meguiar started the company. It was a furniture polish company because back then the cars were made out of the same materials that furniture was made out of. So he invented this line, called it Mirror Bright, moved into the automotive industry. Well, they've gone back to that. They've come out with an entirely new line of chemicals. It's not a rebottled thing, and the plastic bottles now look like the old glass bottles. So they've come out with that. That was introduced at SEMA, and they have a cleaner wax, and they have an interior, a quick detailer they call it. That's pretty interesting because you can use it on the inside and the outside of the car. So I'm interested to see that. They have a leather product, and they have a wheel cleaner that's pretty unusual. It's good for all wheels that are out there. So whether it's polished aluminum with no clear on it, which you have to be real careful with, or it's the modern clear-coated wheels. So that's pretty interesting. So that's coming out. Mothers has come out with a product called the Wax Attack Machine Kit. And what that is a machine designed specifically for the homeowner that likes to do it yourself. And it comes in a kit with the machine and all the pads and all the chemicals you need, and it's like $100. And they say it works very, very well, so it's really good for the do-it-yourself. So that, and the machines that we use here, Rupes, has come out with a machine that's really going to revolutionize the whole polishing industry. It's a machine that's probably 12 inches long, and it runs on both a battery, or you can plug it into your cord, the extension cord, and it uses pads from 1 inch to 3 inch. And it is a combination of a dual action polisher and a rotary polisher. So that's pretty interesting.
1 inch to 3 inch. That's
Yep.
really rather small. You can do some real detailing with something like that.
Yeah, it helps. It helps a lot with some of the cars that have a lot of air intakes and things like that, where you're polishing by hand now because you can't fit a machine in there. This machine will fit in there and speeds up the process and gives you better results. So
Now,
it's going to work out.
Are some of the pads balls in a round so you can get into these hard to get places, or are they all discs?
They're just round. They're discs like a regular buffing pad, but they're small, and they're probably maybe a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch thick. So it's going to be a really interesting machine. We're already in line to get one. They haven't even brought them in yet, but we're one of the top in the list to get it. So as soon as we get it, we can show it.
the machines that you currently use, and I've heard you state this before, they're Italian machines, aren't they?
Yeah, they're made from a company called Rupes, and they've been in the machine making machines that polish paint for I think almost 100 years. And it's a real interesting company. If you Google them, you can see their history and all. But they make their machines specifically for polishing paint. And what I like about them is they're extremely smooth and vibration free. So when I was talking to a gentleman named Jason Rose, who's their global director of training and development, he told me because they have socialized medicine, that if you use their tools and it causes you to have like tunnel carpal syndrome or something like that, the government pays for your medical care.
Oh,
So
wow.
all the companies are real aware of that. So they made this machine so smooth that you can use it all day long and it won't bother you. So that's pretty interesting. But it's just a top of the line machine, and everybody else now is trying to copy those.
Is this particular buffer a straight spinning machine, or is it an orbitable machine?
It's a dual action machine, which means it rotates and it oscillates,
Okay.
but it's not forced to rotate like a regular buffer you would use in a body shop or something like that.
Right.
And the difference being is most of the dual action polishers have an 8mm throw, meaning that when the pad goes around, it goes 8mm in each direction. Well, the Rupes machines start at 12mm and go up to 21mm throw. So you're getting more of the orbital action, which increases the work and the speed of the work the machine will do. So you don't need a rotary buffer anymore at all. These machines will do everything a rotary does, and they don't burn the paint.
Oh boy, talking about burning paint. When I first got in this business and I tried my hand at detailing in the body shop, I would turn around and say, "Oh my goodness, did I do that?"
Yep.
Right along the edge of that fender,
Yep.
burned right up.
Turned a different color, didn't it? So.
Oh yeah, it's like breaking a windshield. Have you ever broken a windshield and go, "Oh my God, if I could only go back 10 seconds, I wouldn't have done that."
Yep. Yep.
Before you know it, the windshield is cracked. Well, before you know it, you burn the paint on the fender.
Yeah, and when we go to classes and things like that, they always make a point to have somebody, when they have a practice hood or something, is to burn the paint, so you know what that's like.
Right.
But the newer machines, you can hold in one spot and it won't burn through the paint, which is really, really important because the modern cars have no paint on them. It's very, very thin. So in detailing, the rotary buffer is pretty much gone away. There are still some people that use them, but you use them very low speeds and very soft pads now. So it's altogether different what a body shop does.
What sort of RPMs are these machines, these new modern machines, rotating at?
They go by orbits per minute, so it sounds really fast, but anywhere from 1,200 to 6,500 orbits per minute, which is not to be confused with revolutions per minute like the rotary buffers do. Even the newer rotary buffers are down in the 500 RPM range now and go up to like 3,000, which there's absolutely no reason at all to use anything above 1,000 nowadays. And that's where people get into trouble. Some of these guys that say they detail and they'll use the rotary buffer and dealerships the same way. They just crank it up as fast as it'll go and go around a car because they think that's the faster way to do it. But it's just bad for the paint.
Right, right. Now, do you have customers that still want to use products like Maguire and Mothers instead of the ceramic coating?
Yeah, I have quite a few people that just enjoy waxing their cars. So I'll polish them and make them look really good, and then I'll wax them with the wax that I use. But they can use whatever wax they want. I even have people. I have a couple of guys that have large garages that once a month on Saturdays they get a bunch of buddies over and they just want to wax their cars and they smoke their cigars and all that stuff. And but they've had their cars coated with the ceramic coatings, but they can wax over top of that. It's just the wax won't last because it won't stick to it. It's not going to hurt the coating, but they just enjoy waxing their cars. So yeah, I still have a lot of people who do that.
That's sort of a social thing. Then they all get
Yeah.
together and do that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
People with lots of money.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Michael.
My pleasure. Now, what's going on in the dynamic automotive world?
Well, we're staying very busy over here. Winter's upon us, and like I was telling Mr. Winward, we've got a couple of differentials in here and cooler lines that are blowing, transmission fluid that's spilling all over the place. We've got suspension work coming out of our ears, and we're doing our share of brakes also. So it's nice to see. Now the other two shops are staying very busy, but here at Liberty Town we slowed down the mid part of September, and October was rather quiet. We really didn't get slow in October, but it wasn't the type of performance that we like to see. Now here in November we cranked it back up, and I can see now it's going to be a sprint to the end of the year. So
Good.
I'm very happy about that.
Now, you went to the SEMA show, right?
Yeah, I went to the Apex SEMA show. I've got a lot of excellent pictures. I have them on my laptop, and I'm not on my laptop tonight. I want to share some of those pictures with you guys. I also attended a lot of classes on the telematics subject, and I had the opportunity to talk to Dave a couple of weeks ago about telematics along with Craig Shipp. You were present also. And that's really something that I'm going to pursue. I'm actually becoming part of a task force. I'm going to be meeting a group in Chicago mid part of December, and we're going to get ourselves organized and really attack this whole subject matter and see if we can level the playing field for independent shops and manufacturers alike, so we can compete in this industry when the world all turns into telematics, and it's going to happen. I mean, it's the wave of the future. It's happening now. Trucks have it. Trucks are using it. Geotab is one of the keen manufacturers tracking all of the trucking industries, and OnStar is a great example of what telematics does. So we want to get into that game also. So
Good.
I
Good.
know that Dave's interested in that stuff too.
Good.
Yeah.
How's my car wash?
Your car wash is doing real well. I guess I ought to tell the people about my locations. We've got 3 locations. I'm at the Liberty Town location, and if you want to reach me, you can call me at 301-694-6250. We're open 8 to 6 Monday through Friday, and Saturdays from 8 to noon. Our original shop is in Newmarket. That phone number is 301-694-5460. That shop is open 8 to 6 Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 on Saturdays. You'll talk to my partner Lee or Sarah at that location. That is a very busy little shop. That's only a 2-bay shop, but they churn out, believe it or not, probably twice as much work as we do here in Liberty Town. The larger shop is located in Urbana, and that's right off of Route 270. That phone number there is 301-874-8833. That shop boasts a 4-bay quick lube facility up front, a 9-bay repair shop, and a 60-foot soft cloth car wash, Michael's favorite car wash around. So that is a 7-day-a-week operation. The general repair shop actually runs 6 days a week, but the quick lube and the car wash are open 7 days a week.
Good. Dave, do you have a contest?
Do we have a contest? Actually, we do. We have a radio contest going on where if a customer comes in and they mentioned the radio show, and I think Dave is actually part of this, is part of WFMD, WFRE, they can come in and spin a wheel, and wherever the wheel stops, they can win a prize like a free oil change, a rotation, or a BG service, something like that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yep. So we all three shops are doing that currently, and we've got coupon flyers out there too. We're always on sale. Yep. So it's been a good fall for the most part with all three shops, and I'm happy to say we're staying busier and busier over here. By the way, we do a lot of BG services at all three shops, and we certainly do use a lot of Jasper products.
Well, good. I think I'm supposed to ask Dave Windward if he has a contest.
Dave, do we have
Yeah,
a contest?
yeah, I can throw up a little contest here. I'm still trying to get rid of this steak sauce, so or the seasoning. Somebody's going to get this eventually. So let me see here. The contest for this evening is, see if it all did it all fit on the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is a full floating differential? And whoever comes closest to answering that question gets this delicious Cajun style steak seasoning. And there's still some football left, so get your grill on and get some of our seasoning.
Oh, that sounds good. All right. Well, I guess we're going to wrap it up. Mr. Dave Serio, I'll tell you, we missed you tonight. We really did. He's giving us a thumbs up. He's being nice. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Windward, for all
Thank
the
you.
information on the Jasper products, especially the differentials. That was very, very interesting. And hopefully somebody will win the spices. Guess what the full floating differential is? That's pretty good. I like that one. And Mr. Lambert, thank you very much for all of that keen information on detailing, the extreme detailer. Tell us exactly where your shop is, please.
We're in Reisterstown, right near 795 and Franklin Boulevard, and the phone number is 410-833-1632.
And well, how many days are you open a week?
Right now we're doing 6, so hopefully we'll be down to 5 in a little while.
Well, as long as I've known you, you've been a very hard-working man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Nice being here.
Yep. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure tonight, and I really do appreciate it. And we'll see you next week with Dave Serio. Thank you.